Welcome back to the Crypto channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is still holding above this major area of support as we're seeing new liquidity building above the price of Bitcoin, which we need to pay attention to as the Bitcoin dominance is continuing the pullback in the short term, causing a major bounce for Ethereum, a major reaction from this significant area of support, which we need to pay attention to. So yes, I have closed my Ethereum short position in profits, which I'll talk more about in just a moment. So definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, taking a quick look at the US stock market, because in my opinion, this is helping to drive some of the short-term price action for the crypto market, because as of recent, over the last multiple days, for the last half a week, give or take, we've seen a bit of a drop-off in the US stock market. This right here is the S&P 500 index on the 1 hour time frame, and we could see that in the early hours, the early trading hours of Wednesday, we saw a major drop-off, which coincided with that drop-off recently, just the other day in Bitcoin and crypto. But later on Wednesday, during the trading day, the US stock market actually recovered after that major drop-off here in the morning. So obviously, this helped with also a bit of a bounce in Bitcoin and crypto just in the shorter term from the local lows. And so I'll definitely keep an eye on what the US stock market is doing to figure out what could be likely about to happen for Bitcoin and crypto. And keep in mind, for the remainder of this week, we're likely going to see a little bit more volatility in the short term, depending on what's happening with the Jackson Hole meeting that is happening this week. In case you're new to all of this, it's basically the Federal Reserve meeting, and essentially Jerome Powell, for example, can give us some insights on what may happen at next FOMC meetings or Fed meetings, whether it's rate cuts or holding rates at the same level. And so once again, that Jackson Hole meeting is happening this week, which can cause a bit of volatility in the short term, depending on the outcomes of that meeting, depending on what is said around potential rate cuts or the lack of rate cuts. And in case you're wondering, the next FOMC meeting or Fed meeting after the Jackson Hole meeting this week is in September, so the 17th of September, and currently the market is pricing in about an 82% probability of a 25 basis point rate cut, so reducing interest rates by 0.25%, and the market's pricing in roughly an 18% probability of no change in rates. And previously, just around a week ago, give or take, this was closer towards almost a 100% chance is what the market was pricing in for a rate cut. But basically over the last half a week to 1 week, because we've now essentially, or the market has essentially unpriced at least a little bit of that rate cut right here, now it's starting to possibly price in at least a small possibility of no change in rates at the next Fed meeting on the 17th of September. That change in pricing back towards potentially no rate cut has been one of the reasons as to why we've seen this pullback over the last few days, over the last 1 week or so. And so in case you're new to all of this, all you really need to know is if we end up getting the rate cut, that's bullish. If we don't get the rate cut, that is bearish for markets. And basically the changing in the probabilities, the changing of the market pricing in or pricing out the rate cut is what we will see as bullish or bearish price action leading up to the Fed meeting. And so in other words, if at the Jackson Hole meeting this week, Jerome Powell kind of says that there's not really a chance of a rate cut, or that there's a high chance of a rate cut, depending on what's said, once again, that can change these pricings between now and the next Fed meeting. And once again, if there's a high chance of a rate cut, that means we might see more bullish price action, more of a recovery as we begin to price in more of that rate cut. Whereas once again, as I just said, if we really see no chance of a rate cut here and the market starts having to unprice that rate cut at this next Fed meeting, then that would cause more of a pullback as a very likely scenario leading up to the Fed meeting on the 17th of September. But as always, I will keep you up to date on what's happening with all of this information here leading up to this Fed meeting every single day here on the channel. So definitely make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. But with that being said, taking a look at Bitcoin, looking at the weekly Bitcoin price chart, right now the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bullish market. But on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, technically we still have a confirmed bearish divergence to watch out for, with higher highs already confirmed in the price and lower highs confirmed in the weekly Bitcoin RSI. And so obviously, like I've been saying over the last few weeks or so, this signal means that we're most likely going to see a larger slowdown, basically lacking bullish momentum, which means at best just a sideways consolidation or possibly a bit more of a pullback at some point in the next couple of months. So later this month and leading into around September September, we could likely see a larger slowdown in the price of Bitcoin is what this means. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day Bitcoin price chart, right now the MACD indicator is still showing us that we're looking a little bit more bearish than we are bullish when it comes to the momentum, because at least for now it is sitting in the red and basically heading a little bit further into the red, as we can see in the histogram within the MACD indicator, indicating a slight increase in bearish momentum. But with that being said, we're not really seeing significant momentum to either direction, so it's not like we're going to have a major crash like this or a major bullish move, at least right now in the immediate short term, based on the current momentum in the market. Once again, we're still kind of lacking momentum to either direction. And so obviously, as I say many times here on the channel, on smaller time frames in the short term, we can see little short-term pullbacks, little short-term bearish moves, or little short-term bounces like this, like what we're seeing right now as of Bitcoin in this video. Just don't necessarily expect a very high momentum movement, at least right now. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin price chart, technically speaking, we still have a bearish divergence to watch out for, which is still to some degree affecting the price of Bitcoin here. We're still lacking bullish momentum. We could possibly continue a bit more of a pullback at some stage, but keep in mind, as I always say, we have to remember certain points of support where the price could potentially bounce from, which is what is happening right now in the immediate short term. We're running into or getting very close to this major area of support here, starting at roughly 112,000. And obviously the price of Bitcoin has bounced from almost exactly 112,000, just a couple of $100, a few $100 above 112,000 is where we started to bounce. And so obviously a lot of people out there would have been looking at that 112k level based on previous significant resistance, this previous high, and also this exact low right here, also at 112,000. So a lot of people would have been focusing on 112,000, which is potentially why we bounced a little bit before 112,000, with some traders front running that level, basically buying a bit before that level or taking profits from short positions a bit before reaching that level. And so once again, as I've been saying this entire time during this pullback, this is the key support to focus on at roughly 112,000. Really in between 110 to 112,000 will likely be acting as major support if the price tests that area. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, taking a look at the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart, like I already talked about in my last video here on the channel, we recently hit oversold in the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI, telling us we might see a slight little bounce here in the short term, like what we saw last time we hit oversold. But keep in mind the trend in the immediate short term, just on the 4-hour time frame, the price structure is technically more bearish than it is bullish, as we are forming lower highs and lower lows in the short term, which by definition is a bearish trend. But obviously that's a short-term trend during basically a bit of a larger sideways price range, at least as of right now, and that is the current situation. And so just keep in mind, of course, we could bounce from major levels of support like this. Maybe we see a little bit more of a bounce. That is a possibility here. But for now, we're still lacking momentum once again, so it's unlikely we could see a significant bullish move straight to new all-time highs right now, right this moment. That is unlikely based on the current situation, the current momentum. But let's just say if this bounce continues here, which is entirely possible, the next points of resistance to watch out for, first of all, sitting at close to 115,000, around 114.8k to 115,000. I would expect a bit of resistance around there based on previous support flipping into new resistance. And if we break out back above around 115,000 and hold above that level, in that situation, the next target would be 117,000, which is a key level on the price chart. We saw a perfect rejection from that level just a couple of days ago. And if we can actually break out back above 117,000, obviously in the immediate short term, that would be a bullish signal. And in that case, the next price target will be this area of liquidity sitting at approximately 119.3k. So basically just above 119,000, we have a lot of liquidity starting to build there. And obviously in my last video here on the channel, I talked about these areas of liquidity in the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, mentioning that we've already exhausted a lot of the downside liquidity in this pullback right here, which was kind of fueling the pullback, or one of the reasons as to why we were pulling back here. So obviously we already used up that fuel on the pullback. We did have a little bit more liquidity that was building at around 112.3k, 112.4k, which we just hit in the short term with this little sweep of the lows. And so now that we've already used up the downside liquidity and we now have new liquidity building above the price, once again, this means that it is quite likely we could see maybe a bit more of a bounce towards this area, keep in mind those levels of resistance where the price could possibly reject from along the way. So obviously nothing moves in a straight line. We can see little bounces, rejections, and things like that. And so that's why I said just earlier, the first target would be, first of all, close to 115,000, just under 115,000. And then after that, a major target would be 117,000. And then only if we break out above 117,000, in that situation, it'll become extremely likely we would hit this liquidity just above 119,000 if we can actually break past these levels of resistance. And like I talked about in my last video, this bearish divergence has basically already played its part. It's already played out very nicely here. So essentially, I'd only really be looking at this bearish divergence on the daily time frame, and of course the larger bearish divergence on the weekly time frame. But keep in mind, potentially while a larger bearish divergence plays out over a period of say 1 or 2 months, we can see short-term bullish moves that last for maybe a few days. So just keep that in mind. And so that's why I always say it's important to understand the difference between the different time frames. Even if we see a bit more of a short-term bullish move towards that area of liquidity, maybe bouncing from oversold, bouncing from a major point of support, obviously once again we still have these major bearish divergence telling us that obviously we're still lacking momentum, at least when we're talking about the next 1 to 2 months as a likely scenario. But if you want to get set up ready to go to take these trading opportunities in Bitcoin or any other crypto, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I've been taking a lot of my crypto trades over on Bitfinex, so I'll make sure to leave a link to Bitfinex below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some major bonuses and also enter into this 25,000 USDT prize pool here simply just by trading crypto using that link. So if you have a high trading volume or a decent P&L, or if you're a new user, etc., there's multiple ways where you could get a share of this huge $25,000 prize pool, which is only available for the accounts that actually sign up using the link below this video, can actually access this major prize pool here. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, or preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well get set up ready to go using that first link below this video to take you to this page right here to take advantage of these major bonuses here. And in case you're wondering, Bitfinex is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And I'll also let you know that right now it's the World Series of Trading over on Bybit, which is a once a year event that happens over on Bybit. It's actually the largest trading competition in the world because this year they have a total prize pool of up to 10 million USDT to be won from this huge trading competition. So for any of the large traders out there, or if you're a decent trader, whatever, definitely check this out. It'll be the second link below this video. Will take you to this World Series of Trading. And that link, by the way, will take you to my team, which you can actually join if you want to using that link below this video. I have an official Crypto World team. Already a bunch of people joined our team right here in the World Series of Trading over on Bybit, which by the way starts in a little over 1 week, or a little under 1 week, I should say, for this 10 million USDT trading competition using that second link below this video. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance on the 3-day time frame, and right now we're actually seeing a further pullback as I've recorded this video in the Bitcoin dominance. Obviously, in the last couple of days, we saw a little bit of a short-term bounce. We were potentially coming in for a retest of this area, but we did not make it all the way there. And so like I've been saying this whole time, yes, we could see little short-term bullish moves, which while that's happening, is not good for altcoins. But overall, the larger price structure or the larger trend right now for the Bitcoin dominance is still pointing in the bearish direction, meaning altcoins, or a lot of altcoins out there, the major altcoins, will likely hold up better than what Bitcoin is doing if we're seeing a continued pullback in the Bitcoin dominance. And so with this latest little pullback here in the Bitcoin dominance, we've definitely seen a lot of altcoins have some decent bounces from the local lows, obviously with Bitcoin having this slight little bounce in the short term from very significant support, and with the Bitcoin dominance having a bit more of a pullback, that's going to help a lot of the altcoin market, obviously. So if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, Ethereum is now bouncing from the exact area I've been targeting, sitting in between 3.9K to 4.1K. The moment we entered into this area in between around 4,000 to 4.1K, slightly into this area, is exactly where we started to find support as expected. And so obviously this is why I talked about in my last video here on the channel that I'm looking to take a lot of profits, and even previous videos over the last 3 days or so, I've been saying I'm looking to take a lot of profits from any short positions here. If we're shorting this short-term move right here, this pullback in the price of ETH, I'll be taking a lot of profits, not necessarily closing the entire trade all all at once, but taking a lot of profits at around 4.1k, give or take. Basically, as soon as we reach this area, we're likely going to find support, which means the price will likely bounce from this area, which means it's a good idea, not financial advice, to take some profits from a short position, is what I've been saying over the last few days. And so that's exactly what I did over the last couple of days, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But if we're taking a look at this daily Ethereum price chart, technically speaking, this bearish divergence is still currently active, which means ultimately we could still see either a sideways consolidation or potentially a little bit more of a pullback at some point, maybe later this week or maybe even going into next week. And so just keep that in mind. Even though we're seeing a major bounce from this support, we've not yet actually invalidated this bearish divergence, which means we might not necessarily see a major high momentum movement towards the upside like this, at least not right now. But overall, considering we're running into very significant support and considering the pullback in the Bitcoin dominance in the immediate short term, it is likely we maybe see a little bit more of a bounce for Ethereum just in the immediate short term, but still kind of lacking bullish momentum is what I'm expecting. And if we're taking a look at ETH BTC, Ethereum versus Bitcoin on the daily time frame, technically speaking, this bearish divergence is still currently active, but obviously, once again, with the Bitcoin dominance pulling back, this is going to help ETH BTC potentially play out a little bit more of a bounce. And we've already seen obviously a short-term bounce here, but at least for now, we've not yet invalidated this bearish divergence. So like I just said, maybe we see a little bit more of a short-term bounce, but overall, in terms of this larger trend here, we're still showing signs of weakness and losing bullish momentum. And so considering the latest information and considering the fact that, of course, the Bitcoin dominance is pulling back, that's a big deal for any altcoin trades. And considering the fact that Ethereum is having a major reaction, a major bounce from this support here, which is obviously a bullish signal, the fact that we're holding this as strong support right now, considering that information, I have now closed my Ethereum short position in some decent profits. And so just being fully transparent with you, this is my current BTNext account right here showing my trading history. Once again, that short position still made close to a 7,000 USD in profits, even after that little bounce right here. So essentially, like I said in my last few videos, first of all, I opened the trade roughly around here, give or take, took some profits about here, took a lot of profits off the table, reduced more than half the size of the trade around here, obviously, as the price of Ethereum was running into this very significant support right here. Like I've been saying over the last few days, that's a target area to take some decent profits, close a decent amount of the trade. But I still had some of the trade open just in case we possibly broke that area. But now that we have not broken that area, now that we've actually started to confirm a strong bounce from that area, once again, I've just, at least for now, closed the rest of the trade and may end up looking for an entry later on, which if I do that, I will let you know about it here on this channel. And so once again, just being transparent with you, this is my current trading history over the last few days here. So once again, that Ethereum short position right here, I did actually have a very small Bitcoin short position, which I basically closed very quickly. But previously, just last week or so, I did have a Bitcoin long position where I longed a previous bullish move back here, over 31,000 USD in profits from that long position just the other week. And then once again, around 6,000 to 7,000 USD in profits from this Ethereum short position just over the last few days. And if you want to actually trade crypto to make a lot of profits like what I'm doing right here with these trades, obviously, once again, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And once again, I'm taking these trades right here over on BTNext. That first link below this video will take you to BTNext, this exchange which I am trading on. But with that being said, taking a look at Solana on the 2-day time frame, right now Solana is still kind of lacking momentum to either direction. We're not seeing major bearish momentum or major bullish momentum, at least for now. And obviously, I've been talking about this over the last few days, over the last 1 week or so, lacking bullish momentum because the price is running into significant resistance, causing obviously the price to reject in the short term. But at least for now, we're still within a large bullish trend, forming higher lows and higher highs, which is technically bullish price structure, but running into resistance, causing a lack in momentum in the short term. And so this is why I swapped out Solana for Cardano in my last video, because there's really not much else to say here. It's very likely Solana will kind of just bounce around sideways over the next few days. It's a very likely scenario, not doing all that much. But of course, even during a sideways price range, we can make a lot of money using grid bots and things like that, which I'll leave a link to grid bots in the 3rd or 4th link below this video to Pinex. So check that out over on Pinex if you want to do any grid bot trading. But for now, the support and resistance to watch out for, first of all, we still have this major area of resistance in between around 190 to 200. Below that, we have some major support at roughly 180. And based on the candle closes, we did actually confirm the candle closes back above 180 on the 2-day time frame. And below that, we have major support at around 167 to 170. And so overall, those are my expectations for Solana. Very boring price action in the shorter term is very likely over the next few days. And if we're taking a look at XRP on the weekly time frame, we still have a major bearish divergence already confirmed and already starting to play out on the weekly XRP price chart, as I've been warning about since almost the all-time highs at around 340, 350. And obviously, since those higher levels, we've already seen a pullback over the last few weeks for almost a month now, already started to pull back. So of course, this has been perfectly playing out as predicted, but technically this means we're still likely going to see a continued slowdown. So at best, a sideways consolidation, but honestly quite likely a bit more of a pullback at some point in the next couple of months or so. So later this month, basically, or potentially throughout September, we could see a bit more bearish price action, or at least lacking bullish momentum for XRP on the larger timeframes. But keep in mind, this is not a short-term signal. So in the short term, we can see bounces and things like that. So obviously that can still happen, but at least for now, we are still holding at roughly 290 as of recording this video. Technically, we confirmed the latest daily candle close back above 290, but still struggling to get back above $3. So it's possible we're still finding some resistance around this area in between $2.90 to $3. And obviously, even if we see a bit more of a short-term bounce here, for as long as we're holding underneath 340, the larger price structure is still looking very similar to what we saw near the beginning of this year, around January, entering into February, entering into March. Obviously, we saw very similar price action. I won't go into much more detail because I've done that many times over the last few weeks or so here on the channel, talking about this price structure resembling this price structure that we saw earlier in the year. And the levels of support and resistance have not really changed over the last one day. So getting straight into the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame. And over the last one day, Chainlink has just created a new higher high in the daily candle closes, hitting almost $27 at the actual high right here, at least as I'm recording this video. And so like I've said many times just recently here on the channel, Chainlink is showing a lot of strength. It's actually one of the strongest cryptos right now, at least out of the major crypto assets out there, the larger altcoins. And so like I actually said in my last 1 to 2 videos here on the channel, it is quite likely that these dips on the price of Chainlink will be bought up relatively quickly, because with the major bullish move like this, a lot of people would obviously have FOMO, fear of missing out, wanting to get involved in Chainlink to take advantage of this bullish price action here, which means the dips right here may be short-lived. So we might not necessarily see a major crash like this, because as soon as we dip a little bit or see a decent pullback, a lot of people might be interested in buying up Chainlink. So keep that in mind. And so obviously this is continuing the larger bullish trend further towards the upside, but obviously we have certain points of resistance we need to watch out for, like close to $27. We are finding a lot of resistance at close to $27. But if we confirm a confirmed breakout, so a daily candle close, for example, confirming above $27 and actually holding that as new support, in that situation, the next target would be at close to $30 in the high $29 area. So around $29.50 to $30 would be the next major price target if we first confirm a breakout and hold above $27. But for now, that is the immediate resistance to watch out for. And as for support, if we see another little pullback here, expect a lot of support at roughly around $24, give or take, as a key level on the price chart. And if we're taking a look at this daily Chainlink price chart, technically speaking, we still have a bearish divergence forming, but with the latest higher high confirmed in the candle closes in the price of Chainlink, technically this is now temporarily invalidated again, the bearish divergence, which means we now have to reconfirm the bearish divergence again with a new lower high in place in the RSI. But considering the fact that the price is continuing to form higher highs while the RSI is forming lower highs, once again, this is still a sign that technically the bullish trend is getting closer towards its end. Obviously, we can see more bullish price action in the shorter term, maybe for the next few days or so. Keep that in mind. But in terms of the larger trend, we're starting to lose momentum. And so that is the current situation for the crypto market and my trading strategy in the short term. Now out of the trade, but looking for new opportunities coming soon, which I will be sharing here on the channel. And once again, if you want to take trades just like this to make a lot of profits in crypto, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade just like this to make a lot of profits in the crypto market, make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.